Well, after 5 o'clock on Tuesday, October 20th, we'll call the meeting of the City Council Downtown Redevelopment Subcommittee to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Kennedy?
Yeah.
Counsel Leahy?
Here.
Counsel Milonazo?
Here.
That's three present.
Thank you. The primary purpose of the meeting is to look at a presentation regarding the potential of a business improvement district in the downtown area. But before we do that, the city manager has an announcement to make regarding some new economic development in the Hamilton Canal District.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I plan to make a more detailed and formal announcement at the regular council meeting, but I think it's appropriate that this committee oversees these type of developments, is that the RFQ process for the Hamilton Canal District has come to a close. And we have exciting news to announce to the City Council and the residents of Lowell, is that we've got some great proposals, and I'm glad that we did it the way we did, because we've got a proposal for a master developer, and we have proposals to do individual parcels. First of all, the master developer is a collaboration or a collaborative endeavor between Wind Development, UMass Lowell, Anchorline Properties, which owns Cross Point Towers, and they're looking to be the master developer. We have more work to do with them, because we need to call them in to get their vision of what they have in mind for being the master developer. But I think the most exciting news is we've had two entities ask us to take certain parcels out of the RFQ, and that they're going to develop them on their own. First is a local company, Watermark. The engineering company is going to ask us to take out parcel 17, and they want to construct a building on parcel 17, which would be retail on the first floor and commercial space on the upper store, probably 4 or 5 stories. They would use 3 for their own purposes and rent out the other stories. And a very exciting proposal is, it can only happen in Lowell, is that Genesis Healthcare, which is a national skilled nursing care company, has submitted a proposal for us to take out parcels 2 and 4. Those are the 2 parcels right at Point Park. They are currently zoned for residential, but we heard loud and clear that we want to do more commercial than residential in the Hamilton Canal, and they are presenting a proposal to take parcels 2 and 4, and in partnership with UMass Lowell, construct a skilled nursing care facility, along with laboratory and classroom space, where they would partner with UMass Lowell's College of Health Sciences to train the students in this type of field. So it's really exciting news. And Genesis Healthcare wants to be in the ground this time next year. So, I mean, I think it's really exciting news. The Hamilton Canal is on the move, and we'll be making a more formal presentation. At the next meeting will be a real formal presentation. We'll be asking for votes to allow me to enter into land disposition agreements. But for this time, I just want to let you know that this committee that oversees this that's exciting news for the Hamilton Canal District.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Are there any questions from the subcommittee? We have, let me do, Council Mercy, have any questions?
I really didn't, and hearing that is good news, but is that going to be a tax-producing entity?
That's a great question.
That would be even better news for me.
Both of them will be.
Oh, great.
And that's the first question I asked Genesis Healthcare, because I was wondering if they were exempt. They said, oh, no, they pay taxes, and they will be paying taxes, yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Manager. We'll look forward to hearing more about that at tonight's City Council meeting a little later on this evening, and also next week. Before we proceed, let me just do some introductions. We have Danielle McFadden from the Chamber here. We have Councilor Rita Mercia. We have Mike Gallagher. We have Jim Cook from the Lowell Plan, and Caroline Gallagher also as well, who I think put the presentation together, right? So if there's no objection from the subcommittee, we turn it over to Michael Gallagher to start off.
Good evening,
pushed? Green? Okay.
It was green, but it was dim green. We didn't have these 20 years ago when I was here. Good evening again, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee and Councilor Mercia. I am here. My name is Mike Gallagher. I'm an attorney here in the city of Lowell. I own property in the city of Lowell, and I actually live in downtown Lowell. I am here with the august chairman of the Lowell Plan, Mr. Jim Cook, and one of our very talented local videographers, and her name is Caroline Gallagher. As you know, over the last number of months, we've been exploring the possibility of a business improvement district in downtown Lowell. And as part of that effort, we have reached out to the State Office of Economic Development, to others throughout the state who have done bids. There are now 5 successful functioning bids in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And we asked Caroline, and the Lowell Plan graciously and generously hired her to do a video, to go around the state from Springfield to Hyannis, with stops in Taunton and Amherst and Downtown Crossing, and interview business owners and others who have been involved in starting up, financing, managing bids. And she did that. And she asked them the kinds of questions that folks who might be a little skeptical about the effort have been asking, and I think she got great answers to those. So rather than myself or Jim chat a little bit about it, we figured we'd do it in video form. So we have a 5 or 6 or 7 minute video we'd like to show at this time.
District, known as a bid. A bid is a contiguous, geographic, designated area within a downtown. Property owners within the bid initiate, manage, and finance enhancements and improvements beyond the baseline services that a city provides.
It's essentially a downtown revitalization tool. The city can only do so much within its budgetary requirements.
The city is limited to the resources they have. We work with municipal government to supplement some of the services that they offer and expand upon those services.
What the bid is providing is a level of enhanced and supplementary services above what the town does.
It's official, it's a memorandum of understanding, and so what we do is pick up off of those and enhance those services.
We don't want the city to take away anything that they were doing. That's really an important point. They need to stay on the same level that they've always been, and we are an added piece.
Bids typically provide enhanced services like maintenance, public safety, business and economic development, marketing, capital improvements, and landscaping.
Cleanliness, graffiti removal, betterment projects,
everything from maintenance to promoting the street, events.
Advocacy for development, parking, zoning.
We get to leverage ourselves with the town, grants.
Main Street is completely different than it was 15 years ago. We had many more abandoned properties. We had much more of a vacancy rate.
A bid is governed by a board made up of property owners and stakeholders. and they decide where improvements are most needed.
This gives the property owners in the downtown an opportunity to really decide their own destiny.
We approve the ideas and we approve where the money's going to be spent.
I'm run by businessmen, and they say, just do it.
Bids are financed by a modest assessment of no more than 0.5% of the assessed value of each property within the district.
A lot of communities seek to bring in an assessment even lower than that, and they cap it.
You know, the old saying, you got to spend money to make money. So this was a way for us to, you know, really come together as a solid group with a budget and invest in the street.
We're doing things collectively that individual property owners couldn't necessarily afford to do on their own.
For that very small buy-in, it gets them a lot of services that would otherwise be much more expensive to them as individuals.
If we all pay this fee, we can combine our resources and create a realistic marketing budget that will bring more customers and consumers to Lowell and help increase the value and make our tenants more successful so we can charge higher rents.
I have a large number of tenants in downtown Amherst, and eventually that fee will get passed down to them.
If it's going to improve the downtown area to bring in more people that want to use our services and our products, then by all means, I consider it a cost of doing business. It's advertising and marketing.
One important distinction is that the bid assessment is not a tax. It's a fee for services.
It's a fee, it's not a tax, which is, because we did get a legal opinion on this, so it's a huge distinction. It's essentially a fee for services.
Is it a fee? Yes. Is an assessment? Yes. Is it a tax? No. Because no other tax that I know goes back to an area from which it was generated.
This goes, you know, directly stays right here in our neighborhood. We decide what we do with the money.
It's essentially a mechanism for property owners to invest collectively in their properties and to help, through a board of directors, be able to control where that money goes.
Throughout the Commonwealth, folks with active and engaged and successful bids have seen their property values increase substantially.
It increases the value of their property dramatically.
For instance, since the bid started 15 years ago, property values on Main Street have doubled.
The numbers speak for themselves. The accomplishments speak for themselves.
We as a group will be much more forceful and will be able to affect change much more reasonably, fairly, and promptly as a group rather than as islands.
It's a force multiplier or an opportunity multiplier.
Lowell has many unique downtown assets of which to be proud. A bid helps a district build upon its assets and drive consumer traffic to those assets.
You have a good, great walkable downtown, and you have all the assets here, the architecture, the history, the public rights of way, sidewalks, streets, all to make it work, and you have a critical mass of these buildings.
The quaintness and scale of the town is really unusual here in New England. There are very few places like it. And so we want to value and respect that, but we also want to build on that.
The call to action is really, what are you waiting for? Do you think that this will happen by itself? And nothing ever happens by itself.
We have made, like lots of other folks, a not inconsiderable investment in the downtown. So from a self-interested perspective, obviously I want to see my property increase in value. But from another perspective, I care a great deal about this city, like a lot of the Wellians, and I'd love to see it go to the next level.
Are you happy with what you have now? You know, would you like to see investment? Would you like to see a dollar go 5 times further? It's your money, it's your investment, and it pays off.
I think it's a good idea for the city. It's about time something like this happened.
The experience of other successful bids in Massachusetts and beyond has been that they make downtowns cleaner, safer, more attractive, and more economically vibrant, and that they increase property values. And this is all done through a plan developed by the property owners themselves, funded by a modest assessment determined by the property owners themselves. Why not a bid for Lowell? Please join us as we explore the feasibility of a bid and develop a bid action plan for downtown Lowell.
Thank you, Caroline, and thank you, members of the committee. What we tried to do, as you could see, is to explain what a bid was as simply and clearly as we could, and then identify potential issues that folks may have with a bid and try to explain what other communities have done. Our intent now is to reach out to property owners in the downtown area to show this video and to see if we can engage fellow property owners in an effort to identify priorities, identify concerns, identify needs, and get the property owners themselves to come up with a plan that will one day become the blueprint for the bid. As all of you know, despite your best efforts, there's only so much that a city can do by itself. And the city's doing a lot of great things right now. Just the new announcement about the Hamilton Canal District is fantastic. This bid would be in an area adjacent to, but obviously not within, the Hamilton Canal District. So it should serve as a really nice complement to what's going to happen in the Hamilton Canal District. This is the area that we're talking about is the historic downtown area. And we foresee starting out in perhaps 4 or 5 or 6 blocks in seeking to convince property owners to get involved in the process. Even the process itself should be very interesting. Getting property owners to think more globally as opposed to my individual property or our individual properties, thinking about the downtown as a whole in the way that individual stores think about a mall as a whole and pay common area charges. So it's very similar to a CAM charge in connection with a mall. So we're really excited about this prospect. Caroline, as you know, has gone throughout the state talking to folks and finding out what's worked and what hasn't worked. We're willing, ready, and able to bring in those individuals to assist us as part of the process. We want to do it right. This is not something that's going to be done overnight. Hopefully, together with property owners, with the Lowell plan, with the chamber and others, and the city council and the city, we can ultimately come up with a plan that works.
Any questions from the subcommittee? Council Leahy.
Excuse me, Mr. Gallagher, last time we met, is this, there was a little bit of confusion. So this is just property owners, not necessarily business owners?
Correct.
Okay. So
Yeah, under the statute, Counselor, is Chapter 40O,
Okay.
and it refers only to property owners.
Okay.
Now, the intent of the effort would be to bring everyone in, tenants, business owners, even residents, potentially as advisors and participants. But the statute itself refers only to property owners.
Okay. All right. And I gotta say that the video was very great job on that. It was excellent. Thank you.
Council Milanazzo.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I echo the video was very well done, Caroline. Thank you. I was intrigued by a comment in the video about the fee will get back to them, meaning that as they improve the downtown area by public safety, by cleanliness, by new signage and so forth, they could possibly, increase their rent over time. So the fee would actually, so they're actually investing in themselves, and then they'll most likely be able to get that fee back by increased rents going to the bottom line, which I found pretty intriguing. My other question, maybe it's to the administration, is whether or not, first of all, I think it's a good idea. I think you should go the next step and meet with the property owners and look at the feasibility, because I do think that Lowell's always been ahead of the curve as it relates to economic development and ideas like this. And being the 6th, in the Commonwealth, it wouldn't be a bad spot to be, in my opinion. But the question for the administration, could we, Mr. Manager, again, under Massachusetts state law, provide any type of savings to the participants in the bid, meaning that if their property value should go up by, say, whatever increment, could that increment be capped for a period of time, almost like a tax increment financing development deal, if you will? Could we show them the property owners within the bid that we too are investing, if you will, and yes, we're improving their property values, but no, we're not going to increase their taxes for a period of time while this fee is being generated and doing a lot of good work, and thereby increasing their ability to attract better tenants and so forth. I'm just wondering if that's a possibility.
We certainly could look into that. I understand, what you're saying is that if they contributed to the bid.
Correct.
We would make sure that their taxes would be raised by that.
Correct, for a period of time, like we do with, the various tax increment financing. And again, it may not be needed. I mean, I think if property owners see this video and listen to Attorney Gallagher and others who support this idea, they could be brought along rather quickly. I mean, again, I could be naive, but I mean, I think that this is a pretty interesting idea that we should explore.
It's a great idea.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it?
Yes, thank you.
Council Mercia?
I think that, someone wants to join already. Bill, and I'm sure.
Sign them up.
Very good proposal. I see a lot of work ahead, though, because I have 1,000 questions when I see this happening. I see a property owner that might not want to get involved and be included, but his tenant would like to do that. So what do you do in that respect? You see what I'm saying? Who's going to oversee the money that is the percentage, a very small percentage? To me, it's like a condo fee, but it's like all the people in the condo units pool their money together for maybe a roof or whatever. So I'm interested to know what type of investment are they getting into? Like, tell me something that would improve because they put their money involved in this project, because I think it's a great opportunity, but what would that money entail? Because we do clean the streets or whatever. Maybe they jointly could hire their own person to clean a little better than the city probably could do. That could be one aspect.
Yeah.
You see so that's why I think this is a very good proposal, but I do see a lot of work ahead of you.
Yeah, the counselor, typically they're referred to as enhancements.
Enhancements.
None of this is replacing what's already done. As a downtown business owner and a downtown resident, I see the machine go by regularly doing the cleaning, et cetera. But the reason I hesitate to answer that directly is because this really needs to be property owner driven. In other places, they've had enhancements to marketing plans. They've had additional police or law enforcement patrols. They've had public art. They've had public furniture. They've had events. They've had capital development projects. They've had maintenance issues. There are a whole number of ways that you can enhance a downtown area. And it's really dependent upon what the folks in that downtown area want to do. One of the things we've heard again and again, Councilor, is the process of downtown people getting together, sometimes for the first time, just as property owners, independent of the city or anyone else, and talking about ways that they can make their respective downtown blocks better is a really neat process, because you begin to realize that your own efforts are fine, but they're not enough. Almost like you own a store at a mall. And the displays over here and the events on Saturdays, you don't fund those, it's done collectively. A lot of us are trying to do things individually, but the potential for collective benefit is really amazing. So in answer to your question, I think as we go through the process, what will evolve is a list of priorities, a list of needs, a list of suggestions, and hopefully some unanimity on where we should head. As to the answer to your first question about what happens if there's a difference between of opinion between a tenant and a property owner, our effort, and it may be pie in the sky, I grant you, and it is going to be a lot of work, is to really try to persuade folks of the wisdom of this. It really is, when you look at the numbers, and we put a cold eye on it, when you look at the numbers, a very small investment in your community. And as Councilor Milanazzo says, and it comes back to you manyfold. if all of a sudden the graffiti is being removed a little bit more quickly, or the streets are getting a little bit cleaner, or it's a little bit safer at night, or there are a little more events that are going on. All of a sudden, there's a piece of public furniture on your sidewalk outside, and a mural goes up, and there's a public sculpture over here, and there's an event during, 5 instead of 3 weekends during the summer, and streets are there's a whole number of things that could be done to complement and supplement the good work that you guys are doing and that the city's already doing. But again, as you all well know, frustratingly, there's a limitation to our budget. So that's the beauty of it.
See, that's what I wanted to hear, what you just, because we didn't hear quite that before, so that is magnificent. So I'm sure you're going to have like a board of directors, something like that. and a
Everything is
committee and-
property owner developed. The board would be property owners.
Right.
The money comes back entirely to the district itself.
Is the money the same for every property owner?
It would be the same percentage,
Okay, same
For-
percentage.
but not the same amount. It would depend upon the value of the
of their
building.
property.
Of that property, exactly.
Okay.
And the property owners themselves decide that.
Mm-hmm.
The statute says that the most you can charge is 0.5% of the valuation of the property, but we could reduce that, and we could have a cap depending upon the size of the square footage of the property. So there's a whole number of ways that we can tweak it, dependent upon the needs and priorities and wishes of the property owners themselves.
So you'd have to follow like state law with holding that money together in like a bank or whatever, right?
It's all done in a very professional way. It's professionally managed. The money is professionally managed. It comes into the cities, collected by the city's treasurer, and ultimately goes back fully to the board. So it's not an instance where fees are accepted and so on and so forth. All of the money that's paid is really an investment because it goes back entirely to the property owners to be decided on by the property owners, which is why others throughout the area, as Caroline caught, from Springfield to Hyannis and a lot of different places, have found.
It's almost like an enterprise fund type thing.
Exactly, yeah. And if you go down to downtown Crossing, Councilor, today, I happened to be down there recently, walking behind a guy who had a bid ambassador's title on the back of his suit. And he was picking up cigarette butts, and he was wiping off graffiti over there, and he was saying, "Hi, how are you?" to people walking by, and he was directing people to a restaurant if they wanted to find a restaurant, and people to parking if they needed parking, and generally being an ambassador for that area.
Yes, that's wonderful.
And when you go down there, there's a spirit that is really kind of neat. And we certainly have that spirit here, but to actually have that kind of an asset, it would really make the downtown experience even better.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Mercier. I just wanted to say, Caroline, I thought you did an excellent job on the video as well. It was very well done. And I should point out that we also have in attendance City Manager Kevin Murphy, Diane Trad from the Division of Planning and Development, and Allison Lemmy from the Division of Planning and Development, as well as Councilor Samaras. Councilor Samaras, did you want to speak on?
Thank you for this presentation, Attorney Gallagher. I'm sorry it was late, but I've been following this process. There's no question the city of Lowell is going in the right direction. The way I see this bid is possibly a catalyst for a quicker change and for us to reach that goal that we're trying to do. That's the way I see it. When you talk about building owners, there are buildings owned by nonprofits, and we have the University of Middlesex moving into the area, buying property. Is there any way they can be included in this process?
Oh, absolutely, Councilor. We would reach out to the university. In fact, we already have. We've already reached out to the community college, to the national park, exactly. As part of their good neighbor policy, it's really incumbent upon them to get involved. Absolutely, they would be involved. And commonly, for example, Amherst is a great suggestion. In Amherst, the University of Massachusetts and the Amherst College are not even geographically within the district itself, but they're huge supporters of the effort, both financially and otherwise. So we believe, and having spoken to folks we now know, that all of those nonprofits will be partners with us in that effort.
Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Just to add to those ambassadors, I got an email last winter from a member of the school committee who had been shopping in downtown Boston, and they saw the ambassadors, and they sent me an email saying that'd be a good thing to do in Lowell. And they thought maybe we could get interns or something like that from the University of Lowell. I don't think that they realized that it was paid for through the bid in downtown crossing, but those ambassadors, besides picking up cigarette butts at Christmas time, they were directing people on, what stores were where and that type of stuff. So there's a lot of goodwill that those people put forth throughout the whole district. This is the second meeting I think that we've had on this, and I think that it would be probably good in order to push it along if we involve the Division of Planning and Development somewhat as far as helping out with the survey. I think that they maybe have more manpower than anybody else does. And so it seems to me that it would probably make a lot of sense and would help move it along if the Division of Planning and Development were to help and work with the Lowell plan in going to the different property owners and just getting a feel of how everybody feels about it. And then maybe at some point there could be a special meeting at some point for the property owners at that time to discuss it in more detail. What do you think about that?
Whatever support and help we can get from whatever source. Most of us have jobs, Mr. Cook and myself and Caroline. This is sort of a labor of love because we see the potential for it, but absolutely. I know the city has to be a little careful because they don't want there to be a perception that it's being imposed by the city, and I respect that. But any assistance that they can provide through interns or through Diane or anyone at the Division of Planning and Development would be very much appreciated. Okay. My brother actually was involved in one down in Sarasota, Florida. He's an architect down there. They had a couple of retired folks who went around and knocked on every door in the district. Now, these folks had an awful lot of time to do that, and they were really supportive of the effort, and they got virtually unanimous support. We don't necessarily ourselves have the time to do that, so any assistance you folks can provide would be very much appreciated.
Okay, I should probably be a little careful myself about committing the Division of Planning and Development without
speaking the evil eye.
But could we hear from Diane Trotter, from the city manager, on that and whether or not they'd be able to?
I think we'd be happy to help. I think it's a great idea, and at the very least, just to talk to the business owners and explain what the bid program is and so take it from there. But yes, we'd be happy to help.
Okay, all right, good. Thank you. We also have Mayor Elliott's here too. I don't know if the mayor was interested in, you're okay on this? Okay.
The mayor's been very supportive of this when we talked to him about it.
Okay. Council Leahy?
Sure, just one other thing. Next time we meet, maybe we could, just for people who are watching the meeting too, we could draw out the downtown boundaries so people understand how far we're reaching out for the historic district too.
Okay.
Just next time.
When you mentioned 6 or 7 blocks, I think you're envisioning what everybody knows is the central business district, right?
Right.
So it would be sort of Dutton Street, Market Street, Merrimack Street, and Central and Prescott Street.
Exactly.
Is that pretty good?
Yeah, we've learned from other bids that it's wise to start smaller. And in some instances, what they've found is that those outside the bid areas have been intrigued and interested enough to say, wait a second, let's expand it to my area. So our plan is to start smaller than bigger.
Okay. And I guess one question that I would have is that, or one thing that probably needs to be focused on is that when the money is collected, if the bid is put together and the money is collected, then the property owners would meet as a group. And
Correct.
They would determine, not the city, how that money would be spent.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
What happens, Counselor, is that a plan is actually developed, then the property owners have to vote on it. And under the statute, a certain percentage of the property owners have to approve it before it can be submitted to all of you for your approval. And even if 60%, even if 100% of the property owners support it, and it comes to you and you decide not to support it, then you don't become a bid.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, it's ultimately up to the city council to make that judgment.
Okay, and if a majority of the property owners somewhere down the road, a couple of years down the road, determined that it really wasn't worthwhile for them, then they would be able to dissolve the district.
Yes, under the statute, a certain percentage of the property owners can combine and decide to dissolve the bid, and that has actually happened in one instance in the Commonwealth for a number of reasons unrelated to this effort. So that's always available. In other words, once you're a bid, you're not a bid for all time. You can over time decide. And even if you don't, under the statute, every 5 years, the whole plan comes up for renewal and reevaluation.
Where was the community where the bid was dissolved?
I believe that was Westfield, wasn't it? Northampton.
Northampton?
Yes.
Okay. And I think in the film, it mentioned, one person mentioned that their bid had been in place for 15 years?
Yes. Yeah.
That was Amherst?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hyannis? Okay.
Yeah, the bid law in Massachusetts has been around since 1994. So there are more than 20 years of experience. There's, I think, about 1,400 of them throughout the country in 48 different states and in Canada as well. So this is not an untried effort, but you're right, there's only 5 communities in Massachusetts. Lowell has always been ahead of the curve in so many different areas, as they showed again tonight with the Hamilton Canal District, and there's no reason why we can't be ahead of the curve here as well.
Okay. Mr. Cook, did you?
Yeah, if I could, I'd just like to add, Counselor, that this video, which was a great production, is something that we wanted to have to show the property owners. So this was completed, I was just asking, I think, late August. So we're now at a point where we could go show this to groups of people, groups of property owners. But I would just be hesitant, if I could, to Councilor Leahy, that we don't want to show a district yet until we've met or talked to most people in the district, so they don't see something in the media and say that, what is this about? I'm in something that I don't know anything about. So our hope is to meet with as many building owners, property owners, businesses as possible, using this tool to educate them on what a bid is. Then when we got some consensus on that, then I think we'd be ready to come back.
Okay.
But as I said, this just got completed, and I think this is going to be a big help.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you. Anybody else? Councilman Linazzi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And one more comment. It's when I heard the 0.5% of the assessment, I actually thought back to when the LDFC was first created, and we got the lenders to put up 0.1% of their local deposits, and for the first 5 years, they had to stay in the central business district. So, and that's been a very successful corporation. I mean, Jimmy Cook is the executive director of that as well. And I'm just wondering if once we get to the point where the property owners say, and Jimmy's hearing this for the first time, but once we get the property owners to say, yes, we want to invest and become part of a bid, maybe the LDFC could actually set up an incentive loan program for the members of the bid to, do what they can if they need to do some property improvements within the bid district. Again, something just to kind of throw out there, think about.
It's a great idea.
And have the lenders, sign on along with the property owners. So, again, I think it might be at least something to explore once you get to that point.
And that's a great idea, and that's actually been the experience in some of the bids, that once you manifest a willingness to reach into your pocket a little bit as a property owner and then as a group, that nonprofits and colleges and municipalities, et cetera, express a greater willingness to sign MOUs to support your effort. That'd be great.
Is that all? All right. Carolyn, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but you were able to visit each of the communities that had a bid. And so in your visits, were there one or two things that they did that were outstanding or that you think is worth mentioning here?
I think it was, to each individual town, they all had something that that was a priority for them. In Springfield, they were really proud of some sort of architectural lighting program that they did that they couldn't have done because it was all private buildings. So the city couldn't have done it. So they took it on, and they love it. They're even going to expand on it. But I think marketing is really a big win for all of the cities. As well, not only marketing Lowell, but marketing the bid so that everybody always knows exactly what's going on with the bid, which I think we'll have a website at some point with all sorts of information on it.
Okay, thank you. I guess I would just want to point out that I think that one of the things that this would do almost, and it would almost happen naturally, is that the group that came together, that put the money in and decided how the money was spent, those people would be stakeholders in the downtown area and into the bid, and so they would come together as a group, and it would help the downtown or the property owners and the retailers in the downtown to work in a more collaborative way than I think that they do right now. And so I think that's just another byproduct of this whole thing that can only be good for everybody.
Exactly.
All right, with that, does anybody else have anything to add? Okay, well, thank you all for coming. The chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn by Councilor
Second.
Lunasa, seconded by Councilor Leahy. All in favor? All opposed? So voted. Thank you.
Thank you.